Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Digital Learning Starts in Your Library. And we are going to spend a little under an hour talking about how the full-text content that you have in your library can be more accessible and more useful to your students and faculty. And today I have with me Sarah from Plymouth White Marsh High School, and I'll let her introduce herself. Sarah?
Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah. I am at the high school level in the Library Media Center, and then I also do instructional coaching for technology integration with all of our staff. So I have the great privilege of using technology a lot throughout my job.
Thanks, Sarah. My name is Gar Sidner. I started with EBSCO a really long time ago with a product called EBSCO Host, and I'm now working with our Discovery product, which is basically a universal index for all of your content in your library to make it more accessible, to increase the database usage. And it's a fun job, and it's something that's fairly new for the school market. It's something we've been doing quite a while in the academic market, and I'm happy to show it to you today. And we'll go through our presentation, and then at the end there'll be an opportunity for questions, which Rachel, our moderator, will deliver to us. So let's go ahead and get started. I like to give sort of the 30,000-foot view so we understand what context we're in and where we're coming from. And in this particular case, if you ask students, faculty, adults, anyone, frankly, where they go to get information, pretty much Google and Wikipedia are top of mind. We know this, one, because it's pretty common knowledge these days, but it's also as a result of a lot of research that EBSCO's done. EBSCO, it's not widely known, has a massive user research team. It is, I believe it's the largest in the library industry, and they're experts on user experience and not only testing out what people are using, how people are using our products, but also other information and search services out there so that we can make them easier to use. And so, as I said, when you ask somebody where they get the information, they'll say Google, or in some cases, the older members will say the Google, but that's definitely the first place a lot of people go. Now, I pulled up a library page. It happens to be one I like. This particular page is fairly common. You have some navigational aids through the links, and you've got that ubiquitous white search box right there in the middle. For most of your students, that white search box might mean something more or less than you intended it to. And in particular, if they type in a title, author, subject, or note field, if they type in something other than a title, author, subject, or note field, they may not get the result they expect. Because when that white search box is pointed at just your catalog, it's actually pointed at one of the smaller databases that you have available in your library. It's just the metadata for those MARC records, and it may not be everything that it's certainly not everything you have to offer them, but they may not know it because they don't know what's behind that search box. They can be forgiven for thinking that because everywhere else they do searches or operate on the web, whether it's retail sites or other open web searches, that white box means this searches everything we've got. Amazon, which is actually kind of universally known as not having the best website in the world, does do a pretty good job of searching all of their products from that white box, and they're not alone. The same goes for iTunes. There's, you know, a lot of the media is similar to what you'll find in a lot of different libraries, and they've managed to also get everything behind that one search box and to make it attractive at the same time. If you go to a Home Depot store, you're not going to have to search differently for lawn and garden equipment than you do for hammers and nails. So that's how they get that impression. And what most libraries do in order to make up for that is they put a lot of their online content in nicely navigable forms here. In this case, this is Sarah's with the subject headings or the database listings on the right. And Sarah, tell me a little bit about what you were thinking. You still have this up because it's still a useful way to get to those databases, but what was Discovery going to solve for you?
So on the right-hand side of the screen, you'll actually see the old version of my library website. This is what it looked like when I took my position about 3 years ago. And it was overwhelming for me as a teacher in the building. And honestly, I can't imagine what a student might have thought, having to first decide which database was most relevant to their search, then actually opening it, and then doing the individual searches. So doing one search in one database, getting out of it, doing another search in a different database could be really frustrating for our students. On the left-hand side, you'll see the new version. This is the current version of our school website if you were to visit it right this moment. And we still have the databases kind of clumped by our department, but they are organized better in those drop-down menus. You'll see the little plus sign out beside them. We also cleaned up the descriptions to make it more student-friendly, but still, even with that, there are nearly a dozen drop-down menus, and we have dozens of databases. So even cleaning up the appearance didn't really solve the problem of our students searching. So the Destiny library resource search that you see up at the top there next to our Plymouth Whitemarsh Proud blue and red logo searches all of our databases at one time and our catalog holdings as well. So it doesn't filter out, and they don't have to click into multiple pages to look for the same thing.
And this is backed up by a lot of user research out there. This is a library demo, so I'm going to give you a library book recommendation. This is a wonderful book, especially for lay people, which I include myself in that category, for how to design web experiences. And I just pulled out a few points here. The book is Don't Make Me Think by Steve Krug. He's wonderful, and he puts all of his secrets in the book. One of them is that we don't actually read pages, we scan them. So all you need to verify this is to have someone, one of your students looking over your shoulder as you're browsing something, and a lot of times they'll say, no, click here, click here. They're actually reading the page faster than you are. But until we get to an article or an ebook, we're scanning. That's how we browse. And along those lines, we're also really not figuring out how things work. We're muddling through. And this is universal for students, faculty, adults. We're not reading user manuals anymore or long lists of instructions. We're actually just seeing if we can figure out how to use. So that's the sort of experience we need to emulate on our library websites as well. And so what we want to do is, Sarah pointed out, is to give you that one universal index. And this is yours right here, Sarah, and this is available right here on your library's homepage?
Yes, so as soon as our students get to our school website and they click on the library page, you'll see the search box is there embedded. The page that we were looking at before is that Research Tools/Databases sub-page, and the search box is embedded there as well. But we felt that, you know, having it on the main library page was a quick visual cue for our students, and it cut out a step in their research process.
Yeah, and that's a very important point, because one of the things that we noticed in terms of usage is that the higher up or the closer to the home page, or in fact on the home page, really does drive usage because of that browsability, because of the fact that we all sort of scan web pages. You're going to get higher usage and higher discovery just by having that search box first and foremost when they get to the library website. Oops. And that is important because we know that if we don't get them there quickly, they can be impatient, and your competition will be a click away. And in this case, I think the competition is anything that's not in the library, whether that's open web resources or Wikipedia or something like that that are available to them. We want to be able to capture that audience and really match up your supply with all that demand that's out there. Because when we take all of that content that you have, it really is just massive. And your library catalog is actually just a very small piece of that, a very important piece, but in terms of the data that you're searching, a very small piece. And we can open that up to all the immense amount of full text content that your library has. Now, we get this question all the time. I'm sure you've gotten it, and I get it from my own kids at home, is why can't we search Google? What's the issue with that? And the fact is that Google's great. If you need to find out what the capital of Egypt is or some type of fact and figure, it can give you a good response, a fast response very quickly. But when it matters who wrote the article and whether or not they were an expert and whether or not they were professional or whether or not it's been fact-checked or there's an editor or that it's even well organized or that it presents this topic in a way that you can form your own opinion, that's when you sort of need these premium resources that all of your school libraries have. We can also make sure that they're the most recent data as well, as opposed to something that they may pull up that's pretty old on a Google search. And just so we know what we're talking about here, this is not just EBSCO data. We're talking about the Gale data, Newsbank, JSTOR, a number of different databases. The point being that this data is already loaded in EBSCO's cloud, indexed with our own databases to provide that one single index, which provides speed, which provides relevancy, and all the good things that go along with it. You can also load your library catalog if you choose to. You can also load institutional repositories. So one single index available literally anywhere on the web to your students. So we take that particular service that we have, and then we have to blend in all the things that we've learned from user experience, not just for students but also for faculty, into your product. And we've come up with these things that make discovery more usable and the online experience better for the students. So the first thing, we did talk about Google and Wikipedia being top of mind. So we're not going to replace those services, obviously, but we can learn from them. Obviously, we need to be easy to use. It needs to be quick. It needs to be something that we can easily understand what we're looking at and what we're searching. It also has to be fast. This is sort of a problem with federated search solutions that have been out there in the past, where your results only appear as fast as your slowest database. Our results are measured in milliseconds, whereas if it was a federated search, it could be measured quite a bit longer. And that's sort of the kiss of death with students when things are slow. It also has to be smart, which in a lot of cases just means not dumb. If your students are searching on something as broad as caffeine, you don't want the first result to be some weird study on the other side of the world about caffeine effects on, animals in the wild. You want it to be very relevant to that particular topic. And a lot of times these databases can be so succinct or so narrowly focused that the results don't make any sense to the students that come back that come back to the students. Obviously, again, easy to navigate, which we'll show you just in a second, and then readable. They need to be able to see the most relevant results at the top of the screen. So that's sort of our benchmark. Let's go ahead and see what we are actually doing in the software itself. So in this case, we have a slide here, Sarah, that sort of shows the overall direction you were going for the user experience for your students.
Correct. For us, one of the biggest selling points for me, and then also, turning that information back around to my administration, was the fact that we are preparing our students for collegiate level work, and we want them to be exposed to the same types of materials that they will experience as a first-year college student. So you'll see up at the top left corner, St. Joseph's University. That's actually a screenshot that I found on their library yesterday. And then the bottom right corner is ours. St. Joe's does use the Discovery service, as do a lot of colleges and universities in our area around Philadelphia. So it's a natural progression for our students. And I can point that out to them when I'm in the classroom co-teaching, a research lesson, or how to use the Boolean operators, those keyword searches. So for our students to become more confident with doing research now using the same interface, they're going to be more successful in college.
Yeah, and I want to point out on your screen right there, you see Research Starter for the Search Immigration Reform. We're going to come back to that in a second, but it's important to note that on your particular interface. And I'll address that in a minute. One of the benefits you get when you're indexing all this content together is you have the ability to not only have big data, that idea that the index is so large that you've got Google-like potential, but also the ability to look at the searches anonymously and get that aggregate search data to get the user quicker to the right result. So with our enhanced autocomplete, which is included with the service, as soon as you type in one letter, it starts to pre-fill either a particular work or a particular journal title or even a particular keyword. And they're based on popularity, so that not only ensures that they get to the known item a little bit quicker, but it also helps with spelling. And these are terms that are updated. It's frankly millions of terms. They're ordered by popularity and they're updated daily. So especially with searches that are trending, you're going to get a result quicker. We can also do fuzzy matching. So if you type in centrifugal the wrong way, or the way I would do it probably, you could get centrifugal spelled the right way along with all the suggested matches for phrases with that word in it. We can also do search within publication. So if, for instance, someone types in something like a popular science, the first result might be, oh, did you want to search within popular science in our collection? At that point, they can say, oh, yeah, exactly, and they can type in their do-it-yourself science projects, just searching the popular science journal. Now, this slide shows one of our research starters in highlight here, and these research starters are important because they give not only the smart answer, but the fast answer. There are more than 70,000 of them now, and the most recent statistics that I saw last month, research starters appear in more than 75% of our top 5,000 searches. So we're taking that aggregate search data and we're saying, okay, these are our most popular search data, searches. What types of research starters are appearing there? And then we can boost that number by looking at the ones that don't have a research starter and make sure that students always get a research starter for a lot of their searches. What this does, when we tested both all the way up to doctoral students all the way down to elementary school students, was that they all said they appreciated just getting a shallow dive in a subject, whether they were an expert in the topic or not, because it gave them other search terms, it gave them a little bit of context. Sometimes it answered the question completely and they didn't need to go any further. And for your students, they can even cite these research starters. They're kind of like a Wikipedia, but they're citable. They've been written by experts and they've been vetted, and so they can certainly use that. And some students, that may be all they're looking for. So smart, fast, easy to navigate, right at the top of your search, all in one right there. It is one of our most popular services. Here we have an example of a research starter. I pulled one up on drone warfare, and you can see the idea here that we give them some images, a little bit of the data, and then there's usually a bibliography or suggested reading list in the bottom, which is also fantastic because that helps them turbo boost their research just from the beginning because they've got some recommendations right there. And when those research starters come up so often and they have these bibliographies, you're really doing your students a service and getting them familiar with the databases right away. Some of the things that we do to make the service more like what students are used to is we blend in experiences like they would get elsewhere. So for instance, if you have your catalog loaded and you have our Novelist Select product, we're able to bring in things like read-alikes from, so in this particular title I've got the Maze Runner pulled up, and we can have read-alikes for this particular title. We can also view the series information, or we can view similar authors just by clicking on the links. It's right there in the result list. They don't have to navigate any further. They literally type to the Maze Runner, and they have that result right there, and they're able to search all of that read-alike and novelist information from the start. The other thing we tested is that no one, from adults to students, really understands what a Gale link is, an EBSCO link is, or even a JSTOR link in this particular school markets, but they do understand PDF. So we'll label things PDF full text. We can also, if you see next to that little entry, send PDF to my cloud. This is a fantastic way if your school is using Google Classroom, you can save it to your Google Drive. Or if you're using something like Dropbox or Microsoft's OneDrive, you can save it there easily. And in fact, this is just one of the many ways that you can share information because not only can you share there, but you can also share any result with Google Classroom. And if some of you have Google Classroom already in your school, lots of integration options for all of your searches. They can save directly to it. We even have a method that they can use their login for Google Classroom if you have Google Classroom Enterprise for all of your database access. One of the things that was important to your users, Sarah, was the Lexile searching.
Yeah, so this was important for me to be able to show my teachers in their own research as they were preparing lesson materials. If they were to begin a lesson and go out in Google and start pulling articles, they would have to analyze them themselves and try to figure out how to differentiate the materials based on students' abilities. But if they start within the Discovery service, the Lexile levels are right there in the results. And in some cases, we show this to the students too. When the students are aware of their Lexile range, they're able to prioritize their research process, starting with those results that they're going to be confident in using before branching out any further.
Great, thanks. We also tested what people thought we meant when we said facets or limiters, and in fact, no one understood. But when you said filters, oh yes, we do understand what filters is. So on the right-hand side, you see Amazon's filters. Everyone knows what those are because they've used the Amazon result list for the most part. And in the same fashion, on the left-hand side are the types of result filters that we have for our own searches. So you can filter by just your catalog only, or whether or not your library has the full text. You can also filter by source type, by publication or publisher, or even the content provider. So if you just want to look at a particular database instead of all of them at once, you can filter those results down easily right there. That's one of the advantages of being able to look at the index all at once. The last advantage is the relevancy ranking. I could go into a lot of detail here, but I'll just say this. First of all, we look at where the search terms appear in the record, what fields they appear in, how often they appear, if they're the only word that appears. We also are able to use our subject thesauri as well as controlled vocabularies to sort of boost the results one way or the other. And then you add some other value rankings that have to do with how current the particular record is or entry is. Whether or not it's just an abstract or full text will boost its result. And then whether or not it's a longer article or a shorter article will also affect the relevancy ranking, all in the interest of getting, no matter what the database, the best result, highest up in the list in the most relevant position for your students. And it doesn't matter what database it comes from. So what happens when a library implements discovery? The first thing that you're going to see is that it's going to make a difference not only in their schoolwork and your school, but it's also going to make a difference to your faculty. We have comments from faculty such as, we never even realized that our library had that information. All that content can start to drive itself into the curriculum, either through linking, as I mentioned, with the Google tools, or also through your learning management system. We have a variety of links back and forth between those systems and our discovery product. You're also doing them some favors in terms of preparing them for those of your students that are going to college. They're more than likely going to see a discovery product when they get to college, and you're giving them great preparation not only for how to use the databases and familiarizing themselves with the database names, but also how to do that research. When we actually went out and tested the kids that were successful in that freshman year writing that freshman paper, we asked them where they learned those skills. And in most cases, they learned them as freshmen in high school. And we published these results in the September 2014 School Library Journal. But essentially, the skills that you're teaching them in high school are what they're going to use for that paper freshman year in college. And what better way to do it, as Sarah pointed out earlier, by using an interface that they're more than likely going to see when they get to college. We've also optimized them for the devices. So this is the idea that your content just doesn't belong in the library. Obviously, we can push it out into the curriculum, into the classroom, but we can also push it out into different devices, no matter what type of technology policy your library has, whether that's tablets or even on their phones. But more importantly, it's not just in the library, even on the school grounds, it can be from home. And I think, Sarah, this is one of the things that was important for your library, to get this information out into the students where they were trying to access it.
Correct. You know, we have a pretty large student body, and when I took the position here, we recognized that our catalog wasn't meeting our students' needs because we just didn't have enough paper devices, period. There's just enough print materials. So I actually really weeded out our print collection almost by 3/4. We reduced the collection size, knowing that we were putting a lot more effort into universal access materials through the Discovery service. So if a PW graduate from 10 years ago came in, they would say, wow, where did all the books go? Or we don't have anything anymore. And I could say, yes, we do. We've got millions more. They're online. Open up your phone. Our school has a bring your own device policy, so students are welcome to bring in whatever device they're comfortable in working on. And we, obviously we have classroom laptops and tablets as well. But we needed something that would work no matter what screen size it was, no matter what browser our students were using, and it needed to be simple and easy to open regardless of that. So being able to compare screens like that in a classroom of 25 kids working on 25 different devices is definitely a necessity for us.
And this last slide I think is useful just because no matter what your goals are for discovery, one of the things that we can almost guarantee is that your usage is going to go up. And it's a combination of two factors. One, indexing everything together, and then two, making access to that index more available from the libraries, that white search box, to be honest. The last statistic there from Info Ohio is all the schools in the state of Ohio, their usage in 2014. And this is not just search usage, this is actually linking out to full text records. Is increasing dramatically. Now, you may not have this increase, maybe you double your usage, maybe you triple your usage, but more likely than not, you're also going to have more awareness of these resources both in your library and within your faculty, and also build that data into your curriculum for all the digital learning technology that you've implemented at your particular school. And finally, the perception that we're really trying to get over here is that this idea that libraries are just about books. Of course they're about books. They are today, they always have been, and they will be tomorrow. But for in this case, and this is someone not from the older generation, but from a younger generation that says, I'm just not a book person, it never occurred to her that the library might have other sources or other resources for her to use. So in this particular case, we want to make sure that your library is not just limited to your physical collection, is not just limited to that physical space where you're in, and we want to project that digital content everywhere else in the school and back into the devices of your students at home or wherever they happen to access them. And we get back to that very important question of why are these premium databases important? They're about answers. They give you answers to the data that's stored in that context. And I had a history teacher tell me once that you can use Google to answer the questions that this class will bring up, but it will never give you the story, it will never give you the context. And in the same way, libraries are doing the same thing. Google can bring you back 100,000 answers, but a librarian can bring you back the right one. And with Discovery, you have even better chance of doing that as well. So that's the formal part of the demo. I think we have a little bit of time here, and I'll just show you one quick search. To show you live some of the things that we were talking about. So let's take one search. And you can see here as I start in typing, the autocomplete fills in fairly quickly. And I'll go ahead and type in the search Boolean. And you can see here I have 1 million results. And then that research started right at the top. Now, granted, there have been complaints. Oh my gosh, that's 1 million results. That's a lot of results. Well, your students see that all the time with Google and they never complain because they know that the most relevant ones are right there at the top. And in this case, not only are the relevant ones right here at the top, but we've also got a research starter right here. Down on the left, we have our limiters where we can search the catalog only, our source types, and even our databases here. And you can see the top 5 here. Here's one. I guess this is a Gale, and some of the others, and I'll just show you an example. Now, I've got everything turned on here. That may not be the best choice for your particular school library. You may choose some. You may also target some databases towards different age groups, for instance, middle school to high school. If you go and look at this research starter here, this may be all that they're looking for. They can have it translated. They can have it read to them. They can read through the overview and the topic. You see the Google Classroom link over here on the right. And they can just go ahead and hit that button and go ahead and link right into their Google Classroom credentials. They get a little bit of information. This is actually one of our longer ones. key points, and then at the bottom it's got some terms and concepts and then a great bibliography and suggested reading list. Now for certain of your students, this is all they ever really needed. This is fantastic data. It's a great start to a search. It familiarizes them with the types of data that's out there, and it gives them that simple and fast answer to that question they were asking. They can also come back, because it's such a big index now, and type in bullying, and maybe they learn social media and Facebook and other things they want to focus on, teenagers, and maybe it's a subject about suicide and LGBT issues. If you do that search in any catalog or any other service, it's going to crash. But in our service, what you do is you get a very dialed-in result. We're only down to 490 results, but you can see here just how good they are. Chronicle of Higher Education, we have the reading levels here. It's all very good information. The last thing I wanted to show you is that other search that I mentioned before. I think it's here. Oh, wrong place. There's that big search box, and every implementation is different, so you can actually request to have a big search box like this, and we'll drop it right on your school's homepage. And you can see right here with the maze runner, the read-alikes from Novelist, which can be combined with your catalog data right there, right where they need it. Say, oh, I want to know which one this is in the series, or I want to view similar authors, or just show me other titles that I might like since I like this one. So that's all we had to show today. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Or if there are any questions for Sarah?
Yep, I'm still here.
Thank you, Gar and Sarah. I seem to be having a little bit of a technical glitch on my end. I can see questions that come in through the chat box, but not via the Q&A box. So I know, Sarah, you had mentioned there are some coming in already, and I do see one in the chat box that I'll read to you. It's from Susan. And she asked you, Gar, to go back a couple of screens to show the home page that you were just on.
Okay. This one here. And for those of you from my generation, Shermer Library is the library in the Breakfast Club. And what was the question?
She just wanted you to go over it one more time if possible, just to review it.
So this search box is just a little piece of code that we can drop on any website. In the same way that we looked at, I can't see Sarah's right now because I'm not on the right network. It's not going to display it properly. But the point being is that whatever experience you want to present to your students, whether in the library or outside the library, the bigger this box is, the more focus it has, the more easily they're going to find it, and the more easily they're going to be able to search your resources. And behind this index is just what we've been talking about the whole time, behind the search box.
And I got a question from Jennifer about the Lexiles. So I'm going to answer that. She's asking if you can limit by Lexile. And right now, Lexiles are appearing just within the individual search results. But you had mentioned, Gar, that Discovery is planning to roll out that limiter as well, so that you can, in some of the individual databases, you can do that. Like in Novelist, you're able to do a search field for a Lexile range, and I believe Discovery is going to incorporate that into the search limiters as well.
Exactly right. It's the #1 requested feature, so it's very top of mind for us, and you should see that shortly from us. We had to verify first that the databases that a lot of libraries have the Lexile data in them in the first place, and then how it would work if they didn't have it. But it'll be a slider, like you saw that date slider. Let's take a look here. If you look over here on the left for the publication update. There's actually a slider here, and we'll do that for the Lexile data as well.
Another question I just saw was about abstracts and book reviews in the full text limiter. I have mine set to default to full text limits, but you can, undo that over there on the left limit too. When the full text is selected, abstracts typically do not appear, but sometimes book reviews do get in because somebody may write a book review for a magazine or a book, so it's still seeing it as a full text article, which there's just not really a good way to get around that.
Correct. You can see here we've got always search within the full text of articles, and we've also limited to full text only.
The next question I see Amy's asking, if one building, if you have a subscription in the district and other sites do not, can it work with these access limiters? I'm the only building in my district that has Discovery right now, so I'm going to ask Gar to kind of explain what that would look like if not everybody is doing, if you only have Discovery and somebody else is accessing it. Is that what your question is?
Yeah, that's a good question, and that's actually one that's easy to answer. We will set up a profile that for each individual location. It just depends on how you're purchasing as a district or as a school or whatever. But we can set up individual profiles or a profile for a set of schools, and we can pull in your subscriptions however you get them. If you get a dozen from the state, if you get some from the district level, and then if your library also purchases some, you can make sure that that profile only reflects what you have license to. And of course, we can create the access in a way that is limited to the proper students for that particular profile. That's also very nice when you start to think about gathering statistics across all of those databases. We didn't show it in the demo, but in the back end, there's very nice reporting across database, across all of the databases in the index on a variety of data points that you can use to gather your statistics.
Great, thank you. Sarah, do you see any more questions in the Q&A box? I don't see any coming in the chat box.
I don't. I'm not able to respond in the Q&A, so that's why I've been putting answers in the chat box. But I don't see anything else in there. You know, Amy elaborated about the district, but that's related to that one.
Okay. Well, I'll go ahead and leave it to you and Gar to wrap up and close, and I just want to let everyone know that the recording will be sent to you and also posted on our blog at discovery.ebsco.com/pulse. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to thank Sarah for joining us today. It's always wonderful to hear someone actually using the product the way you intended, and in some ways educating you on things that you didn't intend that work out for the better. So if you have any questions, I'm sure she wouldn't mind getting in touch with her or getting in touch with me directly. We can arrange trials, and we can also make sure you get a better look at the product separately or individually for yourself or for a group of librarians or media specialists at your school.
Absolutely. I'm definitely willing to kind of speak more one-on-one about how the rollout went for me, how I was able to kind of market it to my administrative team, and then also how it works with the classroom collaboration that I do with my teachers now. I can say that I actually used it this morning with a class of juniors who are writing a thesis about an issue or a topic from Lord of the Flies, connecting it to a global issue or event today. So it was really interesting to see them use the Discovery tool to kind of narrow down their topic without, you know, needing to hunt all over the database list individually. It was really cool.
Yeah, I just saw a quick question about whether or not hyperlinks were planned for the bibliography and the research starters, and that is something that's planned. The research starters are by far one of our more popular features, and If you look right here on this page, you can see we already have some of the links there for other search topics or controlled vocabulary topics, but definitely the bibliographies are an area that we're looking at. A lot of times, and I do this myself in my own research, you can copy and paste them right back into the search, and they're usually pretty ubiquitous titles that you can get in a lot of the databases. So I think that's all the questions, Rachel. Unless there are any others, I want to thank everybody for their time. I certainly want to thank Sarah for her time, and we look forward to talking to you guys in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll put my email address in the chat box right now if you want to contact me directly. And then Rachel, can you give us an idea of when you're going to post the transcript? I know Carrie just jumped in, and she's going to be wanting to see that.
Great. Yes, we will post up the replay this week, actually tomorrow, and I'll enter this into the chat box as well as discovery.ebsco.com/pulse. And you'll receive the recording via email next week.
Thanks for the information.
And there's my email address. Okay, thank you. Y'all have a great rest of the week.
Thanks, everybody.